And I suspect the royal family say, bye bye. You want to be happy in Montecito, that's fine.
And
But in the meantime,
okay,
A, he's writing hurtful things, and B, none of us know how true they are. None of us
okay.
know if the royals would agree. And if you remember the famous statement the Queen made after the Oprah Winfrey interview, recollections do vary.
I'm afraid we do have to talk about it. John's just messaging, going, Aisha, it was going so well, and then you had to mention that book again. Why? Well, I'm sorry, John. It is a big story. It's been a record-breaking memoir. Kind of dropped really at the beginning. I mean, we were talking about it from this time last week. We had the big interview with Prince Harry and Tom Bradby on Sunday, and then it really has dominated the news cycle. And he has done a lot of interviews. He's done yet another interview. He has said that he's actually had to cut content from his book to spare his family, and he actually has he has enough content to write another book. He spoke to Bryony Gordon from The Telegraph. She has a very long-standing relationship with the Duke of Sussex, and he told her, Prince Harry told her that, you know, there are still things that he doesn't want the world to know. Well, look, it has been an extraordinary week. The whole world has been talking about this book. Let's unpack how this book has landed, what we think it means for Prince Harry, what does it mean for the royal family, what does it mean for us, the public, and what we think about the royal family. To unpack this, we've got a cracking set of guests for you. We have the former editor of the Sunday Mirror and the Sunday Express, Eve Pollard. Hi, Eve.
Hello.
And we have Bonnie Greer, playwright and columnist for the New European newspaper. Bonnie, welcome.
Thank you, Aisha. How are you?
I'm good. Eve, I'll start with you. Where do you think things are? We're now a week into the sort of mania around this book. You know, it's kind of a Harry New Year. It really has dominated the news cycle. Where do you think we are?
Mania is a very good word, Aisha. We thought we were possibly heading for a quiet time where people, having bought their books and made Harry 20 million or so dollars, will be settling down to read it this week. But of course, today we have Bryony Gordon's piece in the Telegraph where he says he's got enough for another book. And I guess once you can pick up 20 million for the first book, why wouldn't you want to pick up 20 million for the second? And he says he doesn't really want to write it because he wants to upset his father and his brother. Does he not realize he's upset them before? But I understand what John is saying. How much more of this can we take? Um, it is fascinating to read stuff about the royal family because they are up there. They've been behind palace walls. We, every now and again, we get a bit of information about them. We've had an extraordinary year with them because sadly the Queen died this year. We have a new king. And then we've got this book, and this book shows us that one person in the royal family seems to have been very unhappy, although I must say that most of us thought that Harry was the jokey, laughing, happy boy that we all thought he was, but it now seems it wasn't like that at all. And Bryony is very, very sympathetic to him, having worked with the three of them. Do you remember there was a trio, William, Harry, and Kate, and they were pushing forward with mental health.
Yes.
They were dealing with mental health, which was actually very important because it's not a subject the Brits have been talking a lot about.
Yeah.
And then the world changes and Spare, the book, comes out. Where is it going? Who knows?
I mean, it has been an extraordinary. I mean, it's interesting because Bonnie, I mean, in many ways, no surprise, anything to do with Prince Harry or the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, is very controversial. The people that don't like them say this is the worst thing that's ever been done. It's like a sort of crime against humanity. People who support them say this is actually really important. It is important for Harry to be allowed to say what he wants and address mental health and talk about having therapy. I mean, where do you think things are? What have you made of this week of mania?
Well, I mean, like you and like Eve, I've been just talking about this all week, while the world's burning. And, at one point I thought to myself, I've lived here for half my life. Every decade, there's some, as Jewish people would say, mishigash about the royal family. It's always like that. And then the country starts getting, leaves real stuff. and starts talking about this family, which we know zilch about. We don't know anything about them. Some people know some things, some people know other things. We don't really know anything about these people. So suddenly this book comes out, and all the stuff that's going on in this country, what are we talking about? Frankly, a privileged young man and his privileged family. So, I think that the issue is two things. One, even though the people who are involved with talking about a republic, and I've never seen a Republican bone in the in the history of the British people ever, pretty much never. Um, what are you going to do about this? Because the issue is this country can't go on getting oxygen sucked away from all the other stuff that's going on, and this family, which is a family, it's like a family. The stuff Harry talks about, I mean, stuff happened in my family. My brothers fought, I mean, so the issue is not about Harry, it's about the country. This
Mm.
country has a family that has whose head is the head of state. So there's a constitutional issue here, and I think that people need to sit down and get serious about this.
Yeah. And on that note, Eve, I mean, you and I have worked together this week. We've got long discussions about the sort of, rights and wrongs of this book. But what was interesting is we did have a really interesting discussion, actually in the makeup room in a TV studio, about
Very
what this means now for the royal family, because many people may well think, you know what, Harry, you've just gone too far. You've divulged too much information. But a lot of people are also thinking, he's lifted the curtain on a lot of behaviours and practices from the royal family, the company they keep. And actually, if you were advising the royal family now, Eve, and you're close to members of the royal family, what would you say to them in terms of how they have to try and rebuild some of the reputational damage and some of the trust issues that a lot of the public have with them now?
Well, first of all, I'm not necessarily that close to them, though it's very sweet of you to say so. Um, the truth is, I think we're about to head for a change anyway in the royal family, and that the Queen was amazing, marvelous, a fantastic queen for so long. And you now have a new king. He's barely had a chance to actually establish what he's going to do. He's already talking about opening up the palaces. He's certainly been talking for some time about slimming down the royal family. One of the things that I think probably worried Harry is how slimmed down this royal family might be, because there is the famous story about the picture of the Queen being on the balcony. And I think she was on the balcony, or I think with a photograph, the Queen was in a photograph with herself, with William, and with George. And that summed up, these are the two future kings of Britain, England, Britain, the Commonwealth, the lot. And I think Harry may have worried, where do I fit in? And of course, they used to joke about Kensington Palace being the ant heap or the aunt heap because there were so many members of the royal family. And slowly, as time goes on, members of the royal family who are not directly in line, we see them get jobs. We know that Prince Andrew's daughters both have jobs. We know that Princess Margaret's family, they all have jobs. They're not expecting to be on the royal gravy train. So my feeling is, I think that the royal family will obviously be thinking about how the reign, as it were, of King Charles will be different from the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. And that's a lot to do with the times, a European war, the times of a climate change, the times changing altogether.
Yeah.
And she began her reign in 52. I also think that they will have to think very carefully about how they deal with Prince Harry. And may I say, and I always start these conversations, it makes me so sad, because Harry was a great asset when we thought he was Jolly Harry. And also, I think Meghan Markle, because she is biracial, because she comes from another country, could have injected lots of different things in the short time that she had, when, for example, she got very involved with those women who were producing that amazing cookery book
The
after
Grenfell.
the fire, the Grenfell Tower. She did great things that were different.
Okay.
And they've gone now. And I
Yeah.
think they're definitely gone now. They want to go. And I suspect the royal family say, bye-bye. You want to be happy in Montecito, that's fine.
And
But in the meantime,
okay.
A, he's writing hurtful things, and B, none of us know how true they are. None of us
Okay.
know if the royals would agree. And if you remember the famous statement the Queen made after the Oprah Winfrey interview, recollections do vary.
Okay. I just
Um,
want, you're just
I just
conscious
want
of,
to say we all have different memories of our past, don't we?
I have different memories of what I did yesterday. That's where my brain is
Correct.
at the moment. I can barely remember what happened yesterday.
Agree.
And Bonnie, in terms of how does King Charles, I mean, this really has cast a shadow over. This is the year where he leads up to the coronation. They're obviously very, very angry at what Harry has said. But what do you think the king should do to sort of try and get on the front foot? Because in my view, he has got, he's a thoughtful man. He has got good relations across different communities. Do you think he needs to sort of slightly change his style and be a bit more active in terms of shaping, his sort of leadership as a king, and not doing what predecessors have done, as his mother did, which is sort of sit back?
Well, first of all, I used to be a trustee on the Prince's Trust. He's been involved with the environment, inner city stuff. So has William. So has Harry. So these guys got a lot of savvy people around them in their organizations. Charles need to bring them on in and say, "Help me slim this thing down." He needs to take all the titles away. The only people who really matter as far as the Constitution is concerned, and that's what I'm going to go back to. The only people who really matter are him, William, and George. Those are the people who are going to be the head of states. Everybody else is a spare. So he needs to slim this family down. We don't need all these dukes and duchesses and counts and all. I mean, this is crazy stuff. This is a modern nation. This if the nation is going to keep a royal family, if they want to have the royal family, it's a central part of the country, and I think it does because I covered the funeral. I mean, people were standing out there in the middle of the night in the rain. Okay, so if they do, they have to make it fit for requirements. And that's what Charles has to do. He has to actually say, these titles, I'm taking them away. You're still in the family, but these are the people I'm working with. These are the people who really matter in terms of governance of this country and making this country go forward in terms of because the Commonwealth is going to get rid of them. Okay.
Mm.
So Charles needs to actually do some culling, and we need to actually step away a little bit from all of this stuff because it's taking up a lot of the national oxygen and it's not any good.
Yeah, I think on that note, we can all agree. Look, what a really interesting, thoughtful discussion. My huge thanks to Eve Pollard and to Bonnie Greer. Now,